Once upon a time, in a sunlit corner of Persia, there lived two brothers named Qasim and Ali Baba. Qasim had married into a wealthy merchant's family and wore fine robes every day. Ali Baba was poor but cheerful. He rose with the birds, carried a small axe, and earned his bread by cutting wood in the hills. Though their lives were different, the same wind touched both faces each morning. One bright day, Ali Baba led his donkey into a quiet forest where the ground smelled of pine and the air rang with the tapping of woodpeckers. He chose a shady tree, lifted his axe, and then heard hooves thundering like drums across the earth. A band of 40 riders swept into a rocky clearing nearby. Their leader raised a gloved hand and spoke in a steady voice that seemed to open the air itself. "Open, Sesame." A great stone slid aside and revealed the mouth of a hidden cave. The riders led their horses inside. The stone rumbled back into place, and the forest grew still again. Ali Baba's heart beat fast, but his curiosity beat faster. When the riders left and the dust settled, he crept to the stone and spoke the very words he had heard. "Open, Sesame." The stone obeyed. Inside glimmered a secret storehouse. Coins winked in the dim light. Silk floated like soft clouds. Jewels sparkled like tiny stars held in a dark sky. Ali Baba felt as if he had stepped into a night filled with fireflies. He remembered his small home, his kind wife, and the dinner that waited on a wooden table. He took only a modest pouch of coins, thanked the silent cave, and stepped back into the day. With that little fortune, Ali Baba bought flour, fruit, and warm blankets. He shared with neighbors who needed help. Soon, the house no longer felt thin with worry. It felt full of laughter. Curiosity traveled swiftly through the town. Qasim's wife noticed Ali Baba's wife buying honey cakes and figs, and she asked questions until the truth slipped out. Qasim hurried to Ali Baba and demanded to know the secret. Ali Baba's gentle heart could not refuse. "A brother," he told him of the cave and the magic words. Qasim set out alone with sacks and baskets. He found the stone and spoke the words. The cave opened like a heavy eyelid. He rushed inside and gathered treasure until the sacks bulged. Then he turned to leave and his mind went blank. The right words would not come. He tried one grain after another that he knew from the market. Barley did nothing. Wheat did nothing. Corn did nothing. Night fell and fear grew. When the riders returned, they found him trapped by his own greed. Qasim met a terrible end, and the cave fell silent again. When Qasim did not return, Ali Baba went searching. He discovered what had happened and, with tears, took his brother home. He asked the help of Morgiana, the clever maid who kept the household neat and safe. Morgiana arranged everything quietly and kindly so that neighbors would not whisper unkind stories. She was quick with her hands and quicker with her mind, and Ali Baba trusted her completely. The riders soon discovered that their treasure had grown lighter and that an intruder had slipped away. They sent one of their number into town to find where the secret had spread. The scout learned the path to Ali Baba's door and marked it with a chalk circle. Morgiana saw the mark and felt a threat of danger tug at her thoughts. She took a piece of chalk and drew the same circle on every door along the street. When the riders returned to attack, they found a dozen marked houses and no clear target. Their plan fell apart like a sandcastle meeting a wave. They tried again with a different color. Morgiana answered with the same trick. And once more, the street became a river of wrong doors. The riders fumed like kettles on a fire, and their leader decided to act himself. He disguised himself as a merchant and led a mule train bearing 39 heavy jars. 38 hid his men. One helped thick oil to make his disguise complete. He knocked on Ali Baba's door with a polite bow. "Good sir," he said, "I am a traveler. Night approaches, and I ask only a corner of your yard for my jars, and a cup of kindness for myself." Ali Baba's generous heart opened at once. He welcomed the merchant and offered dinner. Morgiana served dates, warm bread, and a stew that smelled of cardamom and care. Yet something troubled her. The jars were heavy in a strange way and seemed to breathe very softly. When the house grew quiet, she stepped barefoot into the yard and pressed her ear to a lid. A whisper rose from inside. "Is it time?" Morgiana's mind leaped like lightning. She ran to the kitchen, warmed the oil until it shimmered, then returned with a ladle and a plan. She dripped hot oil along the rims of the jars so that it sealed the lids tight as wax. The men inside struggled, but the jars held fast. No one could climb out. With the jars secured, she hurried to the town watch and told them everything. Before dawn brightened the roofs, the watch marched the trapped men away to face justice. At sunrise, the leader gave his signal and heard no answer. He understood the failure at once and slipped into the waking streets. He vanished, but a person can only vanish for so long. Time carries every shadow into the light. Ali Baba thanked Morgiana for her brave night work and gave her freedom, which she had earned 10 times over. He treated her not as a servant, but as a dear member of the family. She smiled, for gratitude is a warmer garment than gold. Weeks bathed. Passed. One afternoon, a charming stranger arrived in the market, generous with coins and smiles. He bought spices, with the air of a man who knew every road. He studied faces the way a falcon studies fields. Before long, he befriended Ali Baba's son and, through him, gained an invitation to supper. Morgiana saw the stranger step through the door and felt the same thread of danger tug again. The set of his shoulders, the stillness of his eyes, the careful way he watched the room told her the truth. She fetched a scarf and a pair of slender practice blades used in festive dances. Music rose, hands clapped, and Morgiana began to dance. Her feet tapped, her scarf twirled like a ribbon of night, and the room filled with delight. As she spun past the stranger, she caught the outline of a hidden dagger beneath his cloak. In one quick motion, she flicked his cloak aside and knocked the dagger to the floor. The room fell silent. The town watch, whom she had quietly summoned just before the meal, stepped from the shadows and seized the man. The disguise peeled away. He was the leader of the riders, the one who had stolen safety from so many. No one cheered. They simply felt the relief that comes when a storm finally passes and the sky clears. Ali Baba's first feeling was shock, then anger that danger had entered his home, and at last, deep gratitude. He bowed to Morgiana. "You have saved us twice," he said. "You have saved our peace and our future. From this day forward, our home is yours as much as it is ours." Life settled like snow. Ali Baba visited the cave only when he needed to help his family or his neighbors. He kept the secret safe and taught his children not only the words that moved a stone, but the words that keep a heart steady. He taught them that riches are like the sea. If you drink too much, you grow more thirsty. If you take only what you need, you can water a garden that feeds many. Morgiana remained the quiet hero of the household. She planned meals that tasted of comfort. She laughed easily and kept her cleverness sharp. She married Ali Baba's son, not because of the treasures in the cave, but because love and respect had grown between them like two vines that choose the same trellis. The house filled with music, stories, and the calm happiness that comes from doing what is right. Children in the town learned a new game. One child would call out, "Open, Sesame," and a circle of friends would part like a stone to let a giggling explorer pass. When they played, they also remembered. They remembered that greed closed doors and kindness opened them. They remembered that courage can be quiet and that the sharpest sword is often a wise mind. So the secret of the cave stayed with Ali Baba's family, not as a source of pride, but as a reminder. Take what you need, share what you can, trust the clever, the loyal, and the brave, and listen closely, for the world sometimes speaks a simple magic phrase that opens more than a stone. It opens the way to a life well lived.